not mob reporters.
Or historians.
Or historians. People want to hold you like to the day, the time, the date, and all this other stuff. When I talk, it's kind of in broad strokes, and you get the rust off, and then you start nailing them down, right? I can't ignore the fact that a lot of people hit me up about how I feel about the recent arrest of 36 alleged Lucchese guys getting arrested in gambling, especially that Georgie neck Zapola,
right?
Who I told you about.
You know Georgie well.
Well, I know him very well. He was my original sponsor to get made into the.
Wow.
You need a captain to propose you and sponsor you.
Yep.
And Georgie Neck was on the lam at the time. I was most wanted, so he couldn't be there physically for the ceremony. So he had little George Conti act as his, captain.
Rep. Yeah.
So Georgie was the one that was there that day in his behalf. But Georgie Neck was the one who brought me as a sponsor, so to say, with Gaspipe. Well, Gas knew me anyway, but that's how it goes. So we were very close. So I think especially that's why I'm getting hit up about it.
So what do you think about the timing to all of that and what's happening out there? Is there something more to it that you can see, or what are you seeing right now?
I'm not a mind reader, or I don't have a crystal ball, but I just think it's coincidence. I was talking about him, and all of a sudden he gets pinched. Obviously, they must have been investigating him and whoever for the past couple of years. So it was a case that was in the making. How I feel about the case? I think it's a bullshit case. I think bullshit in a way. They're going to be facing a lot of time. It's going to sound a lot worse than what it is, and they'll probably look to give him the most out of everybody because of his status. But at the end of the day, he'll be okay. I mean, these things start out like, grandioso, and we made a big arrest and all this other stuff. But when you come down to the meat and potatoes of the case, it's just a gambling case. There's no violence. And it's about $3 million.
It's not even a lot of money, really.
Well, I don't want to sound like, in the scheme of things, $3 million is really not a lot of money.
Right.
I know it's money, but to be honest with you, it's really not a lot of money.
Not really.
Especially in the case. My past case, when they were trying to get me on the white collar stuff, money laundering and all that stuff, no violence and all that stuff, the money table was off the charts. It was over $100 million. And it works like drugs. So that's where you get more time. You get more time with the more money. $3 million?
Compared to what these guys do and what's been done in the past, $3 million doesn't amount to a lot of money.
$3 million. So, you spread $3 million over a minimum of 2 years. What is that? It's not even 50,000 a week.
Barely.
In the grand scheme of things, amongst all these people and all this stuff, it's a petty case. You could see that the government right now, not even the government, the state, whoever it is, they're really scraping for cases because murder took a holiday with the mob.
Right.
Nobody's gotten whacked for a long time. I heard it's been put on pause. And I don't know how you call yourself a mob if you don't kill anybody. Or unalive anybody, as I should say.
Unalive, yeah.
Unalive.
I'd like to say it that way.
Because I don't know how you enforce any kind of threat. What happens? How do you enforce anything?
Anybody else involved in that arrest that you would know? I mean, probably not as deep as the neck, but
When I was around, that kid Perner, one of the Perners got pinched. When I was around, Tumac was the captain back in Jersey. Then you had the Ricardis, Tommy Riccardi. He took over for Tumac. Perner, Mikey Perner, I think he passed away since. I was in jail with him in Otisville a long time ago, like back in 93, 94. Great guy, He'll fight. Guy will fight, but he wasn't, standout killer kind of guy. I think that's his nephew or his son or somebody related. But I know there's a lot of Perners. See, that in Jersey, they're all related. Like, the Tessettas are cousins with the Perners, and the Perners, the Tessettas.
Who married who? The cousins.
I don't know how they're all related, but I know there's a lot of cousins there. Yeah. And that's how originally that whole disagreement started with the Jersey crew where Gas wanted to kill all of them. But, we won't get into that on this
Another
episode.
story, yeah.
Yeah. Now, back in the day when I was around, it was Tumac. So I don't even think the Perners that got arrested on this case were even around then, or in the life. Georgie, though, I seen the mugshot. He looks good.
He looked okay, yeah. He looked healthy.
65 years old.
Yeah. He looked good.
Looks healthy. Looks like he's got a little tan, he's tanned up a little bit.
How close was he and Gaspipe? I know it's a tough question, but
Like a father and son.
really?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
No, they were very close. I mean, he was the closest. Towards the end.
They spent a lot of time together, obviously.
Well, not so much when Gas was on the street. When Gas was on the street, Gas had a lot of the guys around him too. We had a Fat Pete,
Yep.
Gioia, we had Richie Toop, we had a bunch of guys that were around. I think the Neck got more close with him when they were on the lam. So when Gas was on the lam and Georgie Neck was on the lam, they were super close. I guess you would say Georgie was one of the closest ones to him, other than Big Frankie Lestarino.
Oh, wow.
The only guys that were really talking to Gas when he was on the lam was Big Frank and Little Georgie.
Wow.
Not Little Georgie. No, I take that back.
No.
Georgie Neck.
Neck, yeah.
So whoever had direct line, they were the main two guys who had a direct line to Gas. I didn't have a direct line. I know the manipulator, Bones, didn't have a direct line. No, none of us did. But Georgie Neck did, and Big Frankie Lestarino.
So did you report to Georgie then for a while, or because he was your acting boss for quite some time, right?
Who?
Georgie.
Which
Neck.
Georgie?
Neck.
Georgie Neck was the official captain.
Okay.
He was on the lam. And Little Georgie Conti was the acting captain who was on the street.
Okay.
I had a direct line to both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Which a lot of guys don't have. Like, you could be in a crew and never get to your captain. I mean, you could not have that rapport.
Chain of command too, right?
Some guys don't get to, they don't get to have that relationship with their captain. Some have really good relationships where they could call them directly. They could have some personal time with them. But other guys have to go through protocol and,
And it's totally their decision on how they want to proceed with an associate or another made guy or so on, right?
Well, hey, there was guys in our crew who couldn't go to the Neck. They couldn't call him. They couldn't see him. They would have to go through Little Georgie.
Wow. Okay.
Me, on the other hand, I could go to Little Georgie. I didn't have to do that. I could go straight to Georgie Neck because I had his direct contact with him.
Right.
So it was different. Everybody wants breaking news, this, that, and all this other stuff. It's a bullshit case.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
Bullshit case. And you know what? Guys will flip. Guys will wind up flipping. Whoever's going to flip's going to flip. Usually the ratio is 20%. And then could things get worse for them? I don't see it getting any worse. Would they supersede an indictment? Yeah, usually if somebody flips, they might supersede an indictment. At the end of the day, I think they're making a big deal out of this for nothing.
Yeah.
They made a big show because they got the mob is really not doing anything.
And social media is picking up on it and trying to latch on and pull it to make it look bigger or badder than it really is.
Yeah, they go, reputed so-and-so. At the end of the day, he's going to go to court. I wouldn't even pay for a private lawyer no more. I would not pay for a private lawyer. Every lawyer is an arm of the government. And you'll do better with a legal aid.
In some form or fashion.
You'll do the same or better with a legal aid.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. At least in Arizona, let's say every attorney, right, to keep their law license, they have to do community service. Part of their community service is representing as a legal aid. So, for example, me and you could get pinched, God forbid, right? A guy who, let's say Giantonio charges $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour, right? Well, if we had to go pay for him, that's what his going rate is, right?
Right.
He'll try to hit us for 50, 100 grand to represent it, to represent the case. But now for Giantonio to keep his law license, he has to go and participate in the court and act as a legal aid, right? So if it's his turn and he's coming, he gets called in that I don't know how you do it. It's like a pool, right? Yeah. We can wind up with Giantonio for free. Huh. Now that's a $500, $700 an hour lawyer, And then here we are, we got him for free because he has to do it in the state of Arizona to keep his law license. And I think that goes for most states.
Interesting. And they all have to do that.
Is that like a public defender? Is that what they would, or
Right.
so they're assigning somebody that you would normally pay $500 an hour for?
Yeah,
have to
because
do
you're
it for
going there
free.
and you're
Yeah.
saying, hey, I don't have the money,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, to pay for a lawyer. Well, they got to give you a lawyer. If you can't afford a lawyer, they have to give you one.
Give you one. Yeah.
And then they go in this pool because used to be like the reputation or the mentality was, oh, you're just gonna get a legal aid. Some kid coming out of law school doesn't know what he's doing, and it's the first criminal case. That's not the case anymore. Now what they do is they get all these lawyers and say, hey, you want to hold your license, you have to.
You got to
Be a legal
participate in
aid.
this program. Yeah. That's.
So when I got pinched,
Mhm.
I lucked out. The lawyer that I got, if you went to go hire him separately, the guy's $700 an hour.
Wow.
And he has to give me the same service as the paying customer. Now, he's not going to take as many phone calls from me as the guy who's paying him because every time that guy calls him, he could bill.
Yeah.
Because that's how he does. He sells his time. These lawyers, that's how they make their money. They sell their
All
time.
the time.
So a guy calls up from jail. He's talking to him for an hour. He goes, okay, I've been on the phone for 60 minutes. All right, charge him 700. Before you know, the guy gets hit with a bill, goes, what the hell? Well, you talk to me, you ask me about this, you ask me about that. You know, that's how they bill. All what they do is they take a big retainer up front
Mhm.
and they just chop
And
it
they
down
chop.
from there.
Yeah.
Whereas a legal aid, you're going to get the same representation because he has to, because there's ethics involved. And you're going to get the same service. Just you're not going to have anybody to talk to that much, which I don't mind not talking to a lawyer.
How often do you want to talk to your lawyer, right?
So
Not 10 times a day, at least.
I don't want to get involved in the case, but if I had to give any advice, Georgie's smart. He wouldn't get a paid lawyer. He'd get a legal aid. Go in there, probably work it down to single digit plea. You know, maybe because of who he is, he gets 5, but maybe he gets it down to 3, 2, maybe he gets it thrown out. Who knows? The biggest aggravation with these little big cases is that what they do is they tie you up and they put you on paper. So it's still another conviction.
Yeah. It's another
So what
conviction.
they'll do is they'll tie him up now because he's out on bond. He's got to be careful with that. Then he winds up taking a plea, which he'll probably work it down to a plea because I can't see him going to trial on it because why? Why go to trial and get 7, 10 years, 15 years for BS?
Yeah, for
case,
nonsense.
right?
Yeah.
So he probably works it down to a minimal plea, does a couple of years, the guy ain't going to cooperate. And now he comes home and now he's on paper. Now he's got supervised release. So now that holds him back from doing other things.
Changes their lives instantly, like it or not.
A couple pieces of paper could ruin your life.